Welcome to Coordinate, and today we want to proceed in our next session. We want to understand now the second part of operators, assignment operators, and the concatenate operator. Of course, from our previous session, we've understood certain types of operators, for example, how we can work with the subtraction, multiplication, and of course the other types of operators, including the modulus. But today, we want to, of course, proceed with the operator as we understand a more typical understanding of them and on how we can deal with these operators. So definitely, the first operators that we look at are simply the operators that are called an increment operator and a decrement operator. If we were to denote them, simply we can just say, okay, I'm implementing a comment. The 2 plus signs simply stand for increment, which is increment, and then the 2 minus sign simply stand for decrement. Of course, you can tell that plus adds, and of course the minus signs, they do subtract. Hence, addition for increment and of course subtraction for decrement. So how can we deal with these operators? Up to now, you understand that we've definitely understood on how we can create variables. For example, we have variable A, which is equal to 26. Again, we also have variable B, which is equal to 10. This is an external JavaScript file. We've already learned on how to link it to an HTML document or a .php document. So you can tell that the variable A is holding on to 26. So we can apply now the actual increment operators on variable A and of course also the decrement operators on variable B. So to do that, all we can is simply to use the operators, since we understand that the 2 addition signs stand for increment and the 2 consecutive minus sign stand for decrement. So what we can say, okay, we are printing out the content, of course using the get element by ID, and then the ID for the actual element in an HTML is ID number 1. If you double check, this is our HTML, of course, document, which is holding on to ID 1. Hence, we'll be printing out the content that will be sent to this HTML document in the paragraph as an element of HTML. So once we proceed, so we can say, okay, I want now to print out the content in A as a variable. If we go on our browser, you can take note that yes, definitely Ctrl S to save the document. My document is on autosave. You can refresh, and definitely when you click on where it says view its work, this is simply CSS. We are printing out 26, which is the normal things that we've learned so far. So how can we apply now an increment operator to A? We can apply an increment operator if we just put the 2 consecutive, of course, additional sign before A. So what we are saying is, okay, I want to print out the content in A, but before I print out the content in A, add 1 to A. This is what these increment operators mean. We are adding 1 to A and then print out the content in A as a variable. So if we go back on our browser, you can take note that once we refresh and then go on the button that allows us to view the actual content that will be printed out on the paragraph as an element of HTML. Once we do that, then we are printing out 27. 27 isn't the actual variable that was assigned to A. But why are we not printing out 26? It's because of the increment operators that we've implemented. Now take note that again, when it comes to the increment operators, they can either be pre-increment operators or post-increment operators. So of course now we have the variable A after the increment operators. So they are preceding A as a variable. So most definitely this is a pre-increment operator. At the same time, we can put, of course, the same increment operators after A, and you can tell that A now precedes, or should I say, is before the actual increment operators. So this is what we call post-increment operators. And since it is post-increment operators, then what it means is, okay, we want first to print out the content in A as a variable, which is definitely 26, because that's the value that we sent to A. and immediately when we print out 26, then we want 1 to be added to the variable of a. If we go back on our browser, Ctrl S to save the document, once I refresh, don't forget we've used, of course, the post increment operator. Once we go on the actual button that allows us to view the content, we'll say, okay, what's the content in A? We are printing out 26. Why not printing out 27? It's because the type of increment operators we've used are what we call the post increment operator. They are not the pre-increment operators. Pre should precede the actual variable or the actual value that you want to increment by 1. So this is what we can say when it comes to the increment operators. But let's say, what if we wanted now, okay, since we've implemented A with the post increment operators, what if we implement another line that will print out now the content in A? Let's just say, okay, document.getElement by id, id2 of course inner HTML. Let's go and create another element, let's say, or a paragraph, so that we print out now the content inside that element. Okay, let's print, of course, just copy, and then I will paste, and then let's just change the id to 2, because the actual id that will be sent by another method that we've implemented to print out the content, the get element by id, will come in the second paragraph. So if we go on our browser, of course, most definitely Ctrl S to save, though my document is on autosave, we have 2, of course, paragraphs. You can take note because of the CSS that we've implemented. Immediately when we say, okay, view each work, so we are printing out 26 at the first paragraph, and we are again printing out 27 at the second paragraph. Why is this happening? Again, you can double check that this is definitely happening because we said there are 2 types of increment operators. We have the one that has a pre-increment operator and the one that has a post-increment operator. So at this stage, what we did was, okay, I want to print out A, but immediately I print out A. Since I am using post-increment operator, let me now add 1 to A. So meaning in the next statements or line of codes where we need A, of course, A will have a value of 27 because we added 1 at the point when we wanted to print it out, where we applied the increment, which is of course a post-increment operator. The same happens when it comes to decrement, but the thing is, decrement has to reduce. Hence, it can also either be post-decrement or pre-decrement. If we apply now the post-decrement, of course, 2 consecutive minus signs, then we will see once we refresh our browser, okay, and then go on the button where it says view each work. Immediately we do that, so we have 26 being printed out because 26 is the actual value that's in A as our variable that we declared using JavaScript keyword, which is var, to declare a variable. And then we'll print out 25 on the next paragraph because we are saying, okay, I want now to print out the content in A, but immediately I print out the content in A, reduce 1 from A. So if we reduce 1 from 26, I mean, what's the answer? The answer is definitely 25. Again, we have another type which is called, of course, pre-decrement operator. And then pre, of course, as usual, we are saying, okay, reduce A before it is even printed out, and then proceed printing out A. So we'll see now 25 on all sessions, and immediately you do that, yeah, we are seeing 25 being printed out. So this is what we can, of course, implement for now when it comes to the JavaScript increment and decrement operators. Let's proceed on another type of an operator which is called an assignment operator. So let's just queue one of these, of course, methods of printing out. We can do that by implementing a comment. I mean, this is why we learned comments and anything related to that. So okay, let's go on JavaScript as an external file. The other type of operators that we want to talk about is simply an assignment operator. As usual, from our previous sessions, we've been talking about an equal sign as an assignment operator, and most definitely, immediately when you see an equal sign, you are thinking of of course, a value that is being assigned to a certain variable. That's what we said from our session of variables and anything related to that. So like we were learning in, of course, the normal algebra and anything related to that. I don't know if that is in our 80th grade or anything related to that. We are saying immediately when you say an expression saying x is equal to y, then you should think of a situation where they are saying, okay, the value that is in y should equal to the value that is in x. This is what we are doing also today, now in a programming way, and most definitely using JavaScript. So how can now an assignment operator contain more operators in it? We'll only talk about one operation, and immediately when we look at one operation, then most definitely you even understand that, okay, so I can now apply the same situation in other operation. So we've said an equal sign is simply an assignment operator, because like here it's saying, okay, I'm creating a variable which is named a. Now what is the content? 26. 26 should be assigned to a. It is the value that we are sending in a memory space that will be created in a. But take note that we also have another variable, which is variable p. Let's try to delete this variable, and then we'll just say, okay, a, now since we can of course overwrite the content in a, we can give it a new value. Let's say, okay, a is equal to 77, and immediately when we print out now the content in a, we go on our browser, we'll see that we won't see 26, but 77 will be printed out. Please take note that we don't want to do anything to a. It's because we just want to say, okay, we can overwrite the content in a. So meaning we can give it new values and anything related to that. So this is what we are saying. Of course, we don't want to print out a and anything related to that as 77. So okay, what we want to understand is what can we apply in a whilst conjuncting the actual assignment operator, which is an equal sign, with other operators. Take note that if we want, we can say, okay, a is equal to a plus 80, and then we also implement a semicolon. What we are saying is, okay, yes, I know that a is equal to 26, but I want to add 26 to 80, which will give us, of course, that should be 106. So that can happen. What are we saying? We are saying we can use the actual content in a and then add a value, then assign a new value to a. If we go on our browser, take note that once we refresh, definitely view its work, we are printing out 106. 106 is the actual expression that is being sent to a as a variable. Now, this, of course, is another way of doing the actual things that we want to implement. Assignment operators. Instead of saying a plus 80 is equal to that, we can again implement another type of an assignment operator by doing this. So what we are saying is, okay, a is equal to a added to 86, then the value should be assigned to a. We are adding a to 86, then assigning the value to a. If we go on our browser, of course, Ctrl S to save the document, refresh, and then view its work, definitely you are also seeing 106. Again, if we want, we can use a multiplication sign. We can, of course, do that, and then immediately when we go on our browser, refresh the actual browser, view its work, then we are printing out 2080. I mean, that's the actual thing that we can get if we multiply 26 by 80. So this is another type of an assignment operator, meaning an assignment operator, which is the mother equal sign as an assignment operator, can work in conjunction with other operators like the minus, the multiplication, the modulus, the division, and other types of operators for we to implement other expressions. So this is what we've learned for today. I mean, if you don't understand, then yeah, you can rewatch the video and then see where you can understand, and of course where you are of course having questions, and then you can implement the question or ask the question in the comment section, and then we will reply as fast as possible. Another type of an operator that we want to talk about is simply a concatenating operator. When we talk about concatenation and anything related to that, we're just talking about a plus as a sign. A plus can either be of course an additional operator, at the same time can be a concatenating operator. When we say concatenating, we are again still talking about adding things together. For example, instead of printing out the variable, we can say, okay, we can say the value in A is, take note that I'm implementing such strings in double quotes because it is of course a string of character. The value of A is, and then we come out, we can add of course a concatenating operator for we to link variable A to the actual text that we want to print out, and immediately after A again we can implement a concatenating operator. Immediately when we do that, then we are saying, okay, I want to print out the value, let's just say in A is of course the value in A, and then finally we are done. So immediately when we do that, definitely we are saying, okay, I want this to be printed out, but not only this should be printed out, it should be printed out in conjunction with the value of A. And not only the value in A should be printed out, but the value in A should be printed out in conjunction with the actual string saying, fine, we are done, let's also implement now. So this will be printed out on our actual browser. Why? Because we've implemented the concatenating operator. Concatenating meaning adding two things together. Strings can be added, of course values can be added, and variables can be added. Control S to save the document. Immediately when we go on our browser, refresh, and when you go on where it says view each work, we are saying, okay, the value in A is 2080. Fine, we are done now. If we go on our actual IDE and just remove one concatenating operator, you can even see of course the lines which is denoting that, yeah, most definitely this is an error and anything related to that. But if we go on our browser, we refresh, view each work, we can't see anything. I mean, I'm clicking the button, we just can't see anything. Why? Because it's an error. In JavaScript, the actual content that are not of course mutually included, or should I say of the same family member, they should be connected using the concatenating operator. I'm sure you can even tell what the concatenating operator does. It's just a plus. Plus concatenates things, plus adds things, and anything related to that. So now if we go back on our browser, we refresh, view each work, yeah, we'll print out the same content. So this is what we can present for today when it comes to the second session of operators in JavaScript. Let's proceed on our next session, as we will see on how we can get content from the end user using JavaScript only, unlike linking the document of JavaScript to an HTML form. Let's proceed, and please don't forget to subscribe. You are on Concatenate.